Hello, nice to see you. I'm Glenn Thompson. Welcome to TV Cruise Channel's guide to river cruising, a form of holidaying that's growing tremendously in popularity. Now, it can offer you a more laid-back, relaxed and destination-focused getaway, a chance for you to go off the beaten track and explore parts of the world you may never have heard of before. And here to share her experiences and open our eyes to the wonderful world of river cruising is Jane Archer. Jane's travel journalist for the Daily Telegraph. Jane, lovely to see you. Now, ocean cruising we know lots about. River cruising, we're not talking about cruising up the Thames here, are we? What are you talking about exactly?
No, we're not talking about cruising up the Thames, although of course you can cruise up the Thames.
Yes.
You know, I would hate to say that you couldn't. We are, excuse me, we're talking about river cruise vessels. They like to call them ships, but they're not really ships in the sense of what we're thinking about, that are on many of the much bigger rivers around the world. So we're talking about the Rhine, the Danube, the Amazon, obviously, the Yangtze in China. So we're talking about big rivers.
And huge history up some of these rivers as well, aren't
Massive, absolutely amazing, yes. I mean, I love river cruising because I'm very interested in history. And you can get to some fabulous places that, you know, a lot of people have never heard of, that I would never have heard of if I hadn't have gone on the river cruising, and to see the things that you get to see. And, of course, you get to see the big cities as well, because they were all built up alongside rivers, because that was the main form of transport back in the day. If you wanted to go anywhere, you used a river. So where are you going to build your city or your town as it was? You're going to build it on a river. Yes, yeah.
And are river cruises becoming more and more popular now?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, really taking off in the UK at the moment, particularly in Europe. Europe is the big seller at the moment, but Asia is coming along as well. A lot of opportunities to cruise in Asia, and a lot of people are discovering those. Obviously, it's much more exotic, it's a different experience again, but yeah, definitely growing.
And would you say it's more for the culture vultures? There's people that like to sort of explore the rich history of some of these rivers. Would you say that's the sort of person that you go for?
I think, yes, but you don't have to be honest. I mean, I've been on plenty of river cruises with people who actually don't know what they're doing. You know, I mean, they know what they're doing there, but they don't know what they're going to see. They haven't come on it specifically because they can go to this or they can go to that. But yes, exactly. It's a big surprise. They discover these things along the way.
What about the average age of somebody looking for that river cruise? Are we talking somebody who's maybe they've done their ocean cruising, they want to explore maybe different areas of the world, go up these huge rivers and explore, you know, the history, take in the various factories that might be on the side, you know, over there so-and-so happened, over here so-and-so happened. What sort of person is going on these cruises? It
does tend to be an older person, although that age is definitely coming down. There are actually now river cruises for families. Small in number, but they are coming along. Yes,
that surprises me.
Yes, well, my daughter went on her first river cruise when she was, I think, 13.
Oh, right.
And she's been doing river cruises ever since.
And she likes it?
She likes it very much,
And what is it to her that appeals?
Going to see these places, going to see some fantastic places. So, you know, she loves the big cities and, yes, and just poking around in towns and places and learning about things that happened. I mean, there's so much history happened, you know, in Europe. If you do a cruise through Germany and through Austria, so much history, so many things happened there. It's just mind-boggling. But sorry, to go back to your question, so yes, it is an older market, but it is coming down. And yes, you're right. So a lot of the passengers are people who have done ocean cruises and are saying, well, you know, we've done the Mediterranean, we've done the Baltic, we've done the Caribbean. Let's see what else there is. We enjoy cruising, so they're looking at the rivers. But also people are moving to the rivers. These are people who actually previously might have done a coach tour, for instance, around Europe, around Germany, wherever it might be. And they're saying, oh, do you know what? The river is actually a much better way to do it, because it has all the same sort of characteristics, the positive characteristics, if you like, of a cruise. You get on board, you unpack, and that's it. You go to all these different places, you wake in different places every day. You often sail as well. So on the river, obviously, a big difference between river cruising and ocean cruising is that you can see the banks of the river whilst you're sailing. So a lot of the itineraries have sail time, so you can actually sit and just watch and see what's happening, what's evolving along the river as you're going along. And it's a fantastic way to travel and to see places. And as I say, so people, why go on a coach when you can do this? So
I'm guessing we're going to be talking about smaller ships then, aren't we, really?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yes.
Sizes of what? Typical passenger numbers?
I would say typically anything from 150 to passengers to, let's say, 180. But there are a couple which hold, there are one or two that hold 200. There are some that hold just under 100. And if you go to the Mississippi or to the Yangtze, there are ones that hold 400.
Okay, all right. Now, what about the facilities on these smaller ships? Are we going to be sort of reduced in the number of different things to do on board?
Absolutely, yes, of course, because you're on there. Primarily, you're on there to see places.
Yeah.
You're not on there to be entertained in any way. But of course, there is a lounge. There is a lounge and a bar and a restaurant, and increasingly these days, certainly on the more upmarket ones, and the upmarket ones kind of rule these days on the rivers. They have specialty restaurants, so there's a separate restaurant that you can go and eat in as well, and it'll be a much smaller restaurant. It could even be just a sort of like a tapas light bites kind of alternative menu that would be at the back of the lounge. So a lot of them are doing that. And one or two of them have got swimming pools. They haven't all got swimming pools, but increasingly they have swimming pools. There's one company called Emerald Waterways which actually has a swimming pool which converts into a cinema at night.
Oh wow!
So a cover comes over the water, and it becomes there is a screen comes up, and you can sit and watch a film. The roof comes across because in the daytime it's open to the elements. Then in the evening, as I say, the roof comes across and it becomes a cinema.
So we're talking about reduced sort of entertainment, and not. I mean, you still have entertainment on board.
All of them will have, for instance, an entertainer. So he usually plays the piano or whatever. But then in the evenings as well, they will bring on local acts. So one of the nice things about, on a river, they can just pull in more or less anywhere they want to.
Sure.
And a local group can come on board. I've seen a glass blower. He came on board. One of the ones I did was fantastic. How he didn't set off all the alarms, I don't know, because he's got his Bunsen burner and everything else like this, which is great. And as I say, then I've seen groups of guitarists, not guitarists, beg your pardon, violinists and classical concerts. They can get all sorts coming on. So, but they come on, they do their bit, and then they hop off again.
So what itineraries then would be most popular for those trying for the first time, do you think?
The Rhine is the one that is the most popular.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go on the Rhine.
Why is that? Because of the history of the Rhine?
Because the Rhine Gorge has got it's got a lot of everybody knows about the Rhine Gorge. It's got the fairy tale castles. It's got the Lorelei story. The maiden who threw herself into the water and all the rest of it. So people know it. They've heard of the Rhine. They want to do it, and it's the romantic Rhine of this sort of thing. But I would advise the Danube. Anyone who's never done it before, I'd go to the Danube.
So the Danube.
I think the Danube is spectacular because on that you get Budapest and you get Vienna, and you get some lovely other places in between as well. You go to Slovakia, go to Bratislava in Slovakia, which is just a lovely, lovely place.
Give us a flavour of some of the excursions then on some of these ships.
It depends where you are. So I did the Seine recently, which is from Paris up to the sort of, let's say, up to the Channel. Obviously you don't go quite to the Channel, but you go to a place called Caudebec-en-Caux, and then from there you can have a full day's excursion which is going around the Normandy beaches. The one I was on, I think there were 3 different excursions, and one of them was doing the beaches, and there was a Bayeux tapestry stop as well. As I say, I did one. It went to some of the cemeteries. Obviously, a lot of people are very interested to go because of the history of all of that, and you can see the cemeteries.
Emotional, very emotional. I would have thought.
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely, and the beaches. Where the landings were made, and we went to Pegasus Bridge, where they had the parachutists coming in on the gliders, which was not the parachutists, the gliders coming in.
Sure.
And you learn about how this all happened, which is absolutely amazing, just amazing stories. If you're coming down the Rhine, you can go to a place called Würzburg, and then you can do an excursion to somewhere called Rottenburg, which is the most beautiful, beautiful town.
Sure.
I think they call it a city, but it's a town in Germany, just absolutely gorgeous with its walls. I mean, real fairy tale stuff. So
a river cruise really for somebody looking for a little bit extra out of a cruise, somebody who wants to take in a bit of history, a bit of culture. It's something, yes, it's history, there's culture. There's the atmosphere, which is a very friendly atmosphere on board. So it's the same but different.
For sure, yes.
Okay.
And of course, you don't get seasick.
You don't get seasick, exactly.
Seasick.
Yeah. Well, Jane, we'll talk more excursions on these river cruises very shortly. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be finding out much more about that with Jane in just a few minutes' time. Hello, welcome back to TV Cruise Channel's Guide to River Cruising, and Jane Archer is still with us. We're talking about the excursions on some of these river cruises. Where else would you advise, Jane?
One of the favourite ones that I did was on the Danube when you're going to Vienna, and you can go and see the Lipizzanas. Oh. It's actually very difficult to see a proper performance of the Lipizzanas, but you can, if you get it right, you can go and visit the stables, and sometimes you can see the training sessions, which is just magnificent. They are absolutely amazing. If you go all the way across to the States and you do the Mississippi, the main cruise, the most popular cruise is from Memphis to New Orleans. Well, obviously, when you're in Memphis, you've got Elvis, you can go to Graceland's, you've got a Rock and Soul Museum, and you've got some just amazing sites that you're going to see, learning about slavery when you're going down the Mississippi. Wow. And you've got New Orleans at the end, of course, you've got the jazz and some fantastic food as well.
Well, the food to die for, absolutely. Love the food. Now, what about typical durations of something like a river cruise to Mississippi or anywhere else? I mean, some rivers, as we know, are a lot longer than others. How long will that take to go? Well,
it varies on the itinerary. So I would say most people would do a 7-night cruise. So even on the Mississippi from Memphis down to New Orleans, it's 7 nights. But the company that does that, American Queen Steamboat Company, you can actually do one which they've had this year, and they will be repeating next year, which is the whole length of the Mississippi. And I think I'm right in saying it's something like 32 days or something like
32
that.
32 days?
Coming down the Mississippi,
wow.
Which I think sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
On the Danube, it's usually 7 nights. You go between a place called Passau and Budapest, or maybe Nuremberg and Budapest, depending on how often you stop in the meantime. But you can, of course, sort of plait all of these together if you like. So you can do a cruise all the way from Amsterdam, which brings you down the Rhine, down the Main, and then the Main-Danube Canal, and then along the Danube and to Budapest. If you have the time, just stay on a bit longer, and you can go another 7 nights and you'll be at the Black Sea.
So you could, as you say,
all the way to Romania.
That's a great idea.
Yes, so you just put them all together. You can even put different countries together. So, for instance, a lot of companies will do a cruise where you can do the Rhine, and then you do the Rhine and get off at a certain point, and then you go across to France and you do the Rhone. So, you can mix and match, or you can do the Rhone and then you can do the Seine. So you come all the way from the Mediterranean up to Lyon, and then from Lyon to Paris, up to the Channel and back down to Paris.
That is a cracking idea.
Yes.
I like the idea of that.
Yeah.
Wow, OK. What about value for money? You're taking in lots of places here, lots of different things to see and do. You can get off the ship. In terms of balancing it out with a traditional holiday, I mean, on land, you're getting more value for money, I'm guessing.
Yes, it's good. It is good value for money. I'm not going to say it's cheap. There are cheap river cruises out there. You can do it cheap, but the better ones include practically everything in the price. So they will include excursions in the price. Obviously, you can go and do your own thing. You don't have to do the excursions, but if you want to do excursions, they will be included in the price. A lot of them now include drinks with lunch and dinner. So your wine, your beer, your soft drinks, whatever you wish to have then. And often the gratuities are included as well. Flights from the UK, any transfers that need to be done. Some of them are now all-inclusive. So there are drinks at all times. There's never anything extra to pay for the meals. So even if they have a specialty restaurant, that's included in the price. There's nothing extra to pay for that. So you do get an awful lot for your money, that's for sure. And as I say, it depends on what your budget is as to what you would choose. But if you go for one of the more inclusive or all-inclusive ones, you certainly do get a lot.
Would you say start small though? If you'd never done a river cruise before, start small, maybe 7 days, 14
yes,
days.
I would say maybe start 7 days. Maybe do a Danube 7-nighter, as I say, from Budapest through to Passau or Nuremberg to Budapest or something like that. Get a flavour for it, and I'm sure once you've done that, you will want to try some more. if the Rhine, if you really have to do the Rhine because you have to do the fairy tale romantic Rhine Gorge, then Amsterdam down to Basel. That takes you through 4 countries, so you're doing Holland, Germany, France, into Switzerland.
When you talk about river cruises, you think little rivers going through towns, but these big rivers, these are very, very wide, very deep rivers.
Oh yes, they're big. They're not necessarily very deep, but they're certainly big. They're wide. I mean, the Thames does look a little bit sad in comparison to a lot of these places. And of course, if you're on the Amazon is huge, but in certain areas the Amazon is absolutely vast. On the Mekong, which we haven't touched on, but the Mekong, which goes through Vietnam and Cambodia. It's a big river. It's a very big river, and you go to the most amazing exotic places, and most of them stay 2 nights in Phnom Penh, which is a fabulous experience. You get Siem Reap at one end, which has got Angkor Wat. You get Phnom Penh in the middle, and you get Ho Chi Minh / Saigon at the other end. I mean, it's fabulous, absolutely amazing.
So we mentioned a little earlier what's included with a river cruise. Presumably everything's included on board.
Most of them, but some of them are not. So if you are on a budget, if you think to yourself, actually, I don't want excursions included in the price because after all, I can walk ashore, I can go and do my own thing. Then there are ones that don't include excursions. So those are the ones to choose, and some of them don't include any drinks, although increasingly they are including them at least with lunch and dinner, or maybe just with dinner. So there is something there for every budget, if you like.
You talk about excursions. How long typically on a river cruise would a ship stay at port? Would it sort of drop anchor, if you like, and stay there? It
varies. So the smaller places, it might only stay for, let's say, 4 or 5 hours. We might get in there in the morning at 7 o'clock and then all aboard, and it sets sail at lunchtime. If you're going to somewhere like Vienna, chances are it'll stay overnight, so you'll have hopefully 2 full days.
Okay.
It just depends on what there is deemed of interest to see.
Giving you plenty of time to get out and explore the area.
Absolutely. And some of these places, it might be that where they dock, there is a great place to have a look around there, but they'll stay overnight because there's a nice excursion to somewhere else, but that's the handy place to start off from.
Okay. What about the food on board? Does it give you a taste of destinations that you might be visiting?
Some of them do, yes.
Do they alter their menu accordingly?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Not every single one of them, but a lot of them would have the speciality of the region, probably at lunchtime and in the evening, sometimes maybe at breakfast, but less often. But as a general rule of thumb, breakfast is self-service. Lunch is a mixture of self-service and waiter service, and the evening is just waiter service.
Okay.
So that's, as I say, it's quite general, and there are some which are not going to be exactly the same as that, but that's generally how it pans out.
Do I dare put you on the spot and ask you your favourite river cruise?
Well, you certainly can.
Go on.
I'm not going to answer it.
Damn.
I can tell you my favourite. Well, I can't even tell you my favourite river actually, because I'm very torn. But as I have said, I do love the Danube, and I love the exotic rivers as well. And I'm fingers crossed I'm going to be doing the Brahmaputra later this year in India, which is stunning.
Wow.
I did the Ganges last year. That was amazing. So I have to say, as you can tell, I'm a great fan of river cruising. And the Elbe, the Elbe is just stunning, which is in Germany, coming through, Eastern Germany.
And I guess also, if you've never done a river cruise before and you don't want to venture too far afield, Europe has plenty to offer, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We haven't even mentioned the Douro, which is in Portugal. That is a huge favourite as well with the British market. That's much more of a scenic cruise. You've got Porto at one end, which is a beautiful city, lovely city, obviously in Portugal. You've got Salamanca is at the other end, which is in Spain. Very much more Spain as it was, as opposed to Spain as it has become, in the Costa's big resorts. And between the two, beautiful scenery, the vineyards, plenty of port to sample.
Oh, I like the idea of that.
Sunshine.
Let's go back on board the ship a minute. Think about dress code, evening entertainment. Is it more casual being a river cruise?
Yes, yeah.
Jeans and t-shirt?
No, not jeans and t-shirt really. In the daytime, yes. It's shorts and whatever you wish to wear in the daytime. In the evening, smart casual is what they normally say. I could get away with wearing this easily.
You look lovely.
Thank you.
Genuinely beautiful. What about, he says, yeah, of course she is. What about getting on those smaller boats then, those smaller ships, Jane? one assumes that maybe the cabins will be smaller in size.
Yes, they are. I mean, having said that, there are some suites on there which are absolutely amazing, the size of them. I mean, they're not going to be, you know, sort of really as big as the ones on the ocean ships, but there are some companies out there which have some very, very big suites. Might only be 2 of them on board, or maybe 3 of them. But the other ones, they are pretty comfortable as well. Usually it's 3 decks. I mean, they do vary, but let's say there's 3 decks. So first deck, second deck, you're going to have either a walkout balcony, a Juliet balcony, which means it just opens to a bar, but at least you can open the doors. And then the third one is that it might just have a window that you can't open, but at least it'll have the river view. There's no such thing as an inside cabin.
Okay.
But then on the lower deck, you are going to be lower. So all you're probably going to have is a small window, which is fairly high up. So that's sort of how the boats are configured generally.
Just finally then, Jane, what would you say to regular cruise goers who are used to those larger vessels and, you know, in a way have got to downsize and go to the smaller vessels for a river cruise? Would they still enjoy them?
They won't be disappointed. No, they won't be disappointed. I mean, if they're used to having a balcony on an ocean cruise, then now they can get balconies on the rivers as well. So get what you're used to. Don't think, oh, we can save money by having one of the lower deck cabins. Get what you're used to. They won't be disappointed.
Okay, so river cruising, hopefully we've given you a little idea as to what to expect when you head off on that river cruise. Jane, as always, a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining us, and thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time right here on TV Cruise Channel. Bye for now.